how much money do you need to have invested in order to live on dividends for the rest of your life? Now, as I've been making videos about my dividend portfolio recently, this question has come up once or twice, and when I first heard it, I didn't really know a correct answer to it. However, after scavenging through the internet for about 15 to 20 minutes to find the number of the amount of money that you would need to retire off dividends is actually not as hard as you would think. So in this video, I'm going to go over exactly how to find that number for you and how I found that number for myself. So if you haven't met already, my name is Anfernee. I like to make videos about personal finance, and let's talk a little bit about financial freedom before we get into the dividend number. So basically, financial freedom stems from the FIRE movement, which means financial independence and retiring early. And the whole concept around this movement is to invest enough money and to make enough money passively to cover all of your current and future expenses so that you don't have to actively work for money in the future. And this is a great concept for many reasons because it allows you to take control of your life. And the reason why I wanted to mention financial freedom earlier is because before you can get to financial freedom and before you can get to the point where you're living off dividends, you have to really have a good grasp of where you are in your life, how much money you spend on a daily basis, how much money you plan to spend in the future, and this number isn't always exactly what you think. So step one into finding how much money you need to invest to live off dividends is finding out how much money you spend on an annual basis. And for me, the best way to do this is taking my monthly budget that I create every single month and multiplying that by 12. This includes the necessities, the monthly budgets like gas and food. This also includes any discretionary spending that you plan on spending on every single monthly basis, like Netflix, Disney Plus, Hulu, or any other miscellaneous items like that. It is important to be as accurate as possible in this because that will allow you to be as accurate as possible when you get in that final number in the future. And obviously, when you're calculating this number, you want to take out any huge one-time expenses, such as if you go on a shopping spree one month and spend $1,000. If you don't plan on doing that every single month in the future, I would not include that in your annual expenses for your financial freedom number. And honestly, many of the people that I know that are trying to achieve financial freedom are extremely frugal. And if they aren't extremely frugal, they're at least moderately frugal. So they don't have huge plans of spending $100,000 every single year. So if we take me, for example, let's assume my monthly expenses are $3,000 a month. So what I would do is multiply that by 12 to get an annual expense of $36,000 a year. And once we have this annual expense number, we want to sort of fact check it with the average annual expenses of everyone in the United States. Because if I was someone to say that I only wanted to spend $1,000 a month and the average annual household in the US spends $5,000 a month, it may not be entirely realistic to say that I can live on $1,000 a month. However, I do believe that the annual household expenses in the United States is right around $45,000, which puts my $36,000 a year estimate as $10,000 below, but still within that range that I'm comfortable with. And then once we fact check our expenses to make sure that they are accurate and to make sure that they are realistic, we can then move on to the actual amount that we need to have invested. So with any kind of investment strategy that you're trying to pursue, you must also have realistic expectations of what your gains will be in the future. So if you're investing your money in the S&P 500 index fund, you should know that on average, the S&P 500 returns 7 to 10% each year. So going into an index fund expecting 25% returns would be extremely unrealistic. And this goes the same with dividend investing. But the great thing about dividend investing is that you're going to be paid in two ways. Obviously, you're going to make money from the dividends that the companies are paying out, but you can also make money on capital appreciation, meaning that the asset that you buy can then increase in value, therefore increasing your overall net worth. However, typically for dividend investors, they tend to look at the appreciation of the asset as a cherry on top, and they more rely on a stable income from the actual dividends, which is usually set in stone, although it can be canceled about a year in advance. So on average, a dividend portfolio tends to return about 4 to 5% in a dividend ratio in either monthly or quarterly payments. And this number is very important because we will use that to find our financial freedom number. So let's be a little bit more conservative in these calculations and use a 4% dividend payout ratio to find our financial freedom number. So assuming that we still have my annual expenses of $36,000 a year, we can then just use our estimated dividend payout ratio of 4% to find out how much money we would need to have invested to achieve this number annually. And that number would be $900,000. So theoretically speaking, if we had $900,000 in a dividend portfolio that had a 4% dividend payout ratio annually, we would then receive $36,000 a year or $4,000 monthly, which would cover our monthly expenses entirely. However, if you were more in line with the nation's average with $50,000 a year annual expenses and you divided that number by 4%, you would need to have a $1.25 million dividend portfolio in order to live off that investment annually. But you then also have to take that number with a little bit of a grain of salt because you could be a little bit more conservative and start to take into account the effects of inflation. You could also be a little bit more aggressive and start to take into account a market appreciation in your portfolio. And there are just a lot of factors that you can play around with in order to get this number as accurate to you as possible. With me, my Robinhood portfolio isn't entirely dividend stocks, so I would take the number that I got of $900,000 and then increase it by another $200,000 just to provide that level of cushion so I'm not striving to live on the bare minimum in my investment portfolio. And if you do this calculation and then add a little bit on top, I don't see how you couldn't get an accurate estimate on how much you would need to invest to live off dividends every single year. But with that being said, I am still extremely excited to track my dividend portfolio here on YouTube, just so I can be as transparent as possible with you guys to keep tabs on the portfolio so you can see what mistakes I make and what benefits come with dividend investing. The goal right now is to try to build this Robinhood portfolio to $100 in dividends every single month and then work up from there. And one thing I forgot to mention with dividend investing and financial freedom numbers overall is that if you do have any other passive income sources or side hustles that you like to do that you will continue to do even if you're quote unquote retired, you could then subtract this number from your overall monthly expenses, which would lower your annual expenses and your financial freedom number dramatically. So for example, if you really love content creation on YouTube and you thought that you would be doing content creation as far as you're physically able to do it in the future, and you made $1,000 a month on YouTube until the day you die, let's see very quickly how this would affect your math. So pulling back up my calculator, if you made $1,000 a month from a side hustle or passive income, it could even be real estate investing. I just use YouTube because that's the way I make my passive income. But if you made $1,000 a month and you multiply that by 12, you would then have $12,000 annually in passive income. So we can make that negative right now. And still assuming that you had the same $36,000 a year expenses, your new annual expenses minus the passive income would be $24,000 annually. And then you can divide this number by the 4% to see that your new financial freedom number is $600,000 invested in a 4% APY dividend portfolio. And this number is $300,000 less than what it was before. So you can see how recurring passive income can dramatically decrease your financial freedom number. But with all that being said, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you found any kind of value in this video, I really appreciate it if you tap that like button for your boy, as it really does help my channel out. And also, if you want to get a head start on your financial freedom number, use the link in the description below, where if you sign up to WeBull, you will get 2 free stocks just for signing up and depositing $100. And these stocks are pretty legit. I've already gotten over $100 to $200 just in free stocks from people using this affiliate link. And if you want to get 10 to 20 to maybe hundreds of dollars in free stocks, use that link to see what you can get. But as I said, I really appreciate you watching to the end of this video, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.